Hello and welcome, Sistars, to another episode of Ask a STEM Sistar. This is a very special episode of Ask a STEM Sistar. I am Dr. Bendu Bayan. I have my co-host and partner in crime, Ami Bakare, and we have a very special guest today. We are privileged and honored to be speaking with Dr. Tracee Walker Gilbert, who is the founder and CEO of System Innovation. And today we're going to be talking about STEM entrepreneurship, something that is very close to myself and Ami's hearts. As you all know, we are budding STEM entrepreneurs, and we are just really interested in hearing about Tracee's journey. So welcome, Tracee. Dr. Gilbert.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're just going to jump right in. And I am, coming from a life science background. And so I'm just going to ask what maybe a few people are wondering. And that is, what does a systems engineer do?
That's a great question. So I actually started in physics. I got my undergraduate degree in physics, and I was actually scheduled to go to graduate school. But initially, I didn't really fit into the physics community. I'm very much a people person. I enjoy working in teams and solving problems in teams. And I spent most of my undergraduate research in a lab, oftentimes by myself. And that just really did not fit my personality. So I actually discovered systems engineering very randomly. As I think today, or thought back then, it definitely wasn't random, because I've been a systems engineer at heart my entire life. And essentially, systems engineers build complex systems. So some of the systems that I've built in the past are like aircraft systems, satellite systems, national geospatial intelligence systems, reconnaissance systems. So large scale complex systems that take large teams to also to also do the engineering. So the systems engineers are basically the project leaders. They're responsible for bringing together all of the other engineering disciplines and overseeing the life cycle of the development. So from the concept to the design, to the architecture, to testing the system, and all the way to bringing it through operations and sustainment. And fundamentally, at heart, we're focused on improving the efficiency and effectiveness. So I consider myself a systems engineer in every aspect of my life. So as a mother, as a wife, as a family system, I want to create successful systems. Whether I'm working on an aircraft system, I want to create successful systems. So systems engineers are responsible for bringing concepts to life and solving very complex problems in very efficient and effective ways.
Awesome. That really does kind of bring that into perspective to me. So thank you. You actually talked a little bit about this. We see that you're a proud graduate of Lincoln University, and you have an elusive physics degree. And I'm just curious about how you chose your undergraduate institution. And how did you actually land on that major? And if you could explain that Japanese minor for us.
Yes. So as I said, things seem pretty random when you're going through the process, but Steve Jobs says it best, that the dots connect looking backwards. I would say I have been in a STEM program since 5th grade. And I was introduced to science and math very early on. And in high school, we had several tracks. So I went to a science and tech high school, Oxon Hill High School in Prince George's County, Maryland. And they had several tracks. And physics was a track, engineering was a track, and there were also the biological sciences as well. But of course, when it came time to dissect animals, I was out. So physics and engineering were the track. So I did a dual track in high school for physics and engineering. And then when I got to college, I swore I was going to law school. I was going to business school. But I went into another program at Lincoln, another STEM program. It was the Lincoln Advanced Science and Engineering Reinforcement Program. It was a laser program that not only offered rigorous coursework, but it also exposed us to the various career fields. And I had already taken AP Physics in high school. So just thought until I figured things out, I would major in physics. And then just eventually went all the way with physics and thought I'd figure it out after undergrad. But I actually decided to go to Lincoln. My mother decided that I was going to Lincoln. And it was the best decision that I didn't make, but of my life. That laser program offered a full ride and a stipend.
Wow.
And later on, during my time at Lincoln, I also got a fellowship through Oak Ridge National Lab. So I was a rich college student, and my mother understood that going in, that not only were you going to have your books paid for, you were going to have your tuition paid for, you were going to have a stipend. They also offered programs, so they exposed us to so much more. I mean, we went to conferences. I traveled all over as an undergraduate student. And one of my mentors, my math professor, who took us, who was our NSBE chaperone everywhere. We went to the Black Engineer of the Year Awards every year. His wife was Japanese. And so she was my Japanese teacher, and he was my math teacher. So at the time I thought I'm going into the tech industry, possibly, maybe, Japanese would be a good language to take. So I took Japanese for 4 years. I ended up studying abroad in Tokyo, which was phenomenal because I also had the opportunity to work as an editor for a magazine. And so I got to go to restaurants and do reviews. I got to go to the movies, the Kabuki Theater. I got to travel all around Japan as an editor for a magazine. So not only was I in school, but it was also a cultural experience where I really got to dive into the culture and learn about women in society and just really have a phenomenal time in Japan. So I not only learned the language, but I also immersed myself in the culture. So that was a long answer to the question of
wow.
How did I end up at Lincoln? One of the best decisions of that my mother made for me. And then also how I ended up studying Japanese. And actually I did an internship my junior year and was able to work with the Japanese also on a project. So that's kind of how it all happened.
Well, I think that is fascinating and very interesting that you can attribute that to your mom. I think that a lot of times when you're younger, parents or older siblings might direct you in a direction and you might be like, oh, but like, do I want to do that? But then when you look back, you're like, that was a great decision. So
I was angry. Nice. I was angry because Lincoln was not on my list of places to go. But like I said, it worked out. Going to a HBCU undergrad was probably one of the most phenomenal experiences of my life. So it was, and my mother, quite honestly, never pushed me in any direction. So she always cultivated and allowed me to be exactly who I wanted to be and allowed me, to make decisions. But this one, she put her foot down on, and I really thank her for that. Because like I said, it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Oh, well, that's really nice. So the next question would be, you went on to receive your master's in systems engineering. You have a PhD from Virginia Tech. So could you please tell us a little bit about that decision to pursue graduate degrees? And then how did you choose Virginia Tech? And then what drew you to systems engineering?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I was going into a PhD program, like I said, right out of undergrad, but I went to a career fair with a friend of mine on what I thought was a random day, not to look for a job or just to go with her. And I came across Lockheed Martin, which is in the aerospace and defense industry. And they introduced me to the world of systems engineering. And they had a leadership development program where you could work for 3 years, get high impact job assignments, and also get your master's degree at the same time. They paid for it. And in fact, had professors come from Virginia Tech to come and teach us on site at Lockheed. So that's how I decided to start at Tech, because we had professors come on site, and that 3-year rotational program led to a master's degree in systems engineering. And at the time, actually, I did not still think that I was going on to the PhD. Now, mind you, those seeds of PhD were planted in most of us that went through the laser program. Many of my colleagues now, or excuse me, the people that I went to undergrad with now have their PhD. So that seed was planted very early on, but still at the time, I was not thinking I was getting my PhD. I actually wanted to be an executive at Lockheed Martin. But I had a manager who pushed me very hard to just take some classes. Why don't you don't have to enroll into the PhD, but after my master's, why don't you just go take some classes? And he just kept pushing the PhD, pushing the PhD, pushing the PhD. And those seeds were already, like I said, Lincoln had planted those seeds of getting a doctorate. So then eventually I had taken classes and decided that I was going to just go for it, just go ahead and go for it and get my PhD, because I really fell in love with the discipline of systems engineering and systems thinking. So I decided to go ahead and get my doctorate. And at the same time, I had started a family. So I ended up taking a leave of absence from Lockheed and starting a family. I had 2 daughters and got married. And then, life had another turn for me, because I thought I would be at Lockheed for the rest of my life. That was really my dream. But of course, life takes you on those twists and turns. And while I was going through my PhD program, I wanted a different kind of experience when I came out. So I knew for sure that when I got out, I wanted to go and work for an FFRDC, a federally funded research and development center, because it gave me the best of both worlds. I could do research on one end, still be connected to academia, but also still be connected to, that systems engineering, development of systems. So right after I finished, actually, even before that, the week I was defending my dissertation, my advisor asked me to apply for AAAS. And like my mother, with the situation with Lincoln and my mother, I did not want to go to AAAS. I'm probably one of the few people that did not want to do the AAAS program. I wanted to go work for MITRE. And I actually did end up going to work for MITRE, but kept going with the AAAS process. And I don't even know why I kept going, because I knew I didn't want to do it. So I just kept going with it, and eventually decided to, and that's a whole nother story, a whole lot of tidbits of why I decided to do AAAS and to leave where I thought was my dream job.
You have such an interesting path and an interesting story. I have so much to pull from, but I really want to go back to that, what Ami touched on, which is just the influence that your mother was able to have on your, undergraduate path. And then, it's that directly influenced everything else, that you ended up doing. And so I'm just curious what advice, you would give to, a freshman who, maybe is interested in physics or systems engineering. They have a little bit of, a talent in that area. What advice would you give someone in early undergrad that is interested in these topics, maybe something that you didn't know, that you think would be useful for them to know at this early stage, that maybe doesn't have, the parent, kind of pushing them along?
Yes, I would recommend exploring and getting exposure. So the field of the discipline of physics and systems engineering are such diverse fields. So I would recommend, like I mentioned, NSBE and the Black Engineer of the Year Award. I also did internships at NASA. So I was able to travel with NASA and present my research. So having those kinds of things to help expose me to the diversity of the diverse aspects of the field, of the various fields, I think is very important, because you really want to find what it is that you absolutely love to do. And as I mentioned, I've been a systems engineer at heart even long before I studied the discipline. So I've found that thing that makes me want to get up every morning and do the work that I love to do. I love the work that I do. And I think everyone wants to find that. You want to find, what you're passionate about, what you're gifted in. And you want to find, basically you just want to find that. So you want to expose yourself to as much as you can as an undergraduate student.
Awesome.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well. So that's awesome advice for a younger person. But I believe we kind of said that we were really interested in the entrepreneur side of your path. And so you have added founder and CEO to your title. How did you decide it was the right time to actually start your own business?
So I have to say, I don't think that there is a right. Well, okay, for me, let me go back and say for me.
I was about to be like, oh,
for me, quite honestly, I had 3 children and I had a young son at the time. So in all accounts, that probably was not the right time. If I would have contemplated it further, it wasn't the right time. But I think for me, and like I said, I think it's an individual basis. For me, it took for me to have a lot of different experiences to really thicken my skin and to be able to handle and maneuver in a lot of different spaces. So I say that to say the AAAS fellowship program really gave me a seat at the table at the highest levels of government. So I worked and still support the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Because it gave me a seat at the table very early on, it gave me the confidence to be able to go out and launch out on my own. It had me sitting at tables with, presidents of corporations, deans of departments, presidents of universities. Also, when I did my fellowship, I traveled to the Middle East and had the opportunity to go speak to students, to go speak to presidents of universities, to go speak to the US and Omani ambassadors. When would I have ever had the opportunity to do that at my age? So AAAS really catapulted my career and gave me the confidence to go and start my own company. So when I say it wasn't necessarily, and probably other people's eyes to start my company with 3 kids and a really young son at the time, it was the right time for me because I knew it just intuitively that it was the right time for me to start my own company. So I hope that cleared it up.
I love that you said that because I think that, some of us, like we've been thinking about, starting a company or we have these great ideas and there's always something else that's going on in life that seems like, this can't be the right time or I should wait or, and so just hearing you be honest and say that, maybe looking back, it wasn't the right time, but, here you are. So I want to actually get into, you telling us a little bit about system innovation and types of services you provide and how you landed on providing these types of services.
So system innovation, the title kind of came from systems engineering. So the word system, and then STEM, system has the word STEM in it. So in addition to being very passionate about systems engineering, I'm very passionate about STEM outreach. So just as Lincoln and the laser program and honestly, Lockheed Martin as well, the way that they cultivated me, they cultivated my leadership skills, they cultivated me as an engineer. I am just as passionate about doing that for women and people of color, and students and entrepreneurs. So the word system really encapsulates both of those concepts. And then innovation, just in the sense that I enjoy being on the cutting edge of innovation. So my very first couple of contracts was really out of the work that I was doing with AAAS. So I had the opportunity, which, like I said, started at AAAS, but then evolved into my own company. Actually, I did AAAS. I worked for a company called Engility, which is now SAIC. And then for the past 5 years with my company, have been able to advance the state of practice for systems engineering. So bringing the Department of Defense to the digital age. And I had the opportunity of leading the efforts to develop the concept, develop the digital engineering strategy, and lead the implementation efforts across the Army, Navy, the Air Force, industry, and academia.
Wow.
So that was really the first, the bulk of the work that I did very early on. Also overseeing research, so also overseeing systems engineering research, and then applying systems engineering to develop applying those concepts, those digital engineering concepts, to a next generation target aircraft. So those were my, that was really the first couple of years of my company, where I started off just by myself. And then 2020 was supposed to be the year of vision. It was supposed to be the year of transformation. It was supposed to be the year of expansion. And of course, we all know, what's happened during COVID. But fortunately, the Department of Defense, who is my primary customer to date, it slowed it down for a little bit, but I was able to get a Navy contract this year. I've also formed some new partnerships and just recently signed with another company to do some engineering work for next generation technologies. So AI, machine learning, quantum computing, secure networking and data, 6th generation technologies. And also, just very recently, I'm going to be doing a mentor protege program so that I can really work to transition out of the role that I had, really working to support a customer, to now really being able to focus on expanding the business.
Awesome. And I just want to say congratulations
Right.
on all of that. And it sounds like, you're headed in great places. I'm curious, you mentioned the AAAS fellowship, which I'm also an alum, and
Yes.
all of the influences that being in the fellowship has. And I'm curious, outside, of AAAS, what has been like the experience that has contributed the most to your success in business thus far? Any, particular mentorship or particular other exposure or anything else that you think has contributed the most to your progress?
Yeah, so I think just like when I was an employee, having formal and informal mentors were incredible. And I think the informal mentors that I've had in business have been phenomenal and have been there with me every step of the process. And now, as I mentioned, I am in the process now of forming a formal mentoring relationship with the Small Business Association with a larger company. But I think it's those mentoring relationships that, for entrepreneurship, you are treading in uncharted territory. So I know systems engineering. I know how to, from concept through disposal. You put me on a project, I can do it. But as an entrepreneur, you are exposed to and are responsible for so much: legal, accounting, contracts, so many things that are outside your realm of understanding. So I think my mentors, and who are now, there has to be a stronger word for mentor. If there's a stronger word, my mentor, my friends, my family, and my business partners, but an even stronger word than that, because like I said, they've been with me every step of the process, through the ups and the downs. I think they have really not only helped me in terms of my business, but also pushed me to go further and to continue to want to strive and go higher, just continuing to go higher. So mentorship. Yes.
Awesome.
So for me, I would like to kind of go back a little bit to when you kind of talked about starting your business and it not maybe being the right time just because you had a small child. So for me, like I have a 3-year-old, and so I constantly feel like it's never the right time to literally do anything. And so I'm very curious to know, like, what are the unique challenges that are there for Black women in STEM? But I would also like to know what are the unique challenges for like a Black mom in STEM as well. And then are there any resources that you used to help out with that or anything like that?
So that part, I don't have resources. Because I say that because, I say that because most people that I work with are male to start with, you know, and most males that I work with have a different responsibility. So they may have children, but most of the time their children are either grown or you know, much older, and their responsibility in terms of managing the house and managing children are different. And that's not to say it's like that for all men, but for the men I work with. So I would also say the same thing about pregnancy. You know, when you're when you're a career ambitious person, it's never really a good time to have a baby. I mean, you're either starting something and don't, you know, or you're right into something and it's like, or you know what I'm saying? So it's never really a good time. I would just encourage you to, if you can find what you love to do. And for me, if you knew me, I know that there are two things that I'm supposed to do. Anything else, I can't really vouch for it. I'm not that good at. I am born to be a systems engineer. I didn't know that entrepreneurship was necessarily in my path, but I know that the legacy that I'm going to create with my business is what I'm supposed to be doing as an engineer. And then being a parent, you know, being a mother, is having a family is what I was called to do. Everything else, like I said, I'm not good at. But those things I am good at and I love it. So you know, how do you do it? It's only because I love it. It's only because it's the gift that God gave me. And it's only because I have a passion for it. Anything else probably would not be possible. Trying to manage a family and trying to manage a business, or trying to manage a career, you know, that you're ambitious about, and trying to climb the corporate ladder. I mean, it's the same thing. So I think for mothers, and you know, it's a challenge. I mean, and even given this time of COVID, you know, my children are at home. That responsibility of having children at home and trying to work at the same time, I don't work with anybody else. Oh, I do work with one other person who has that responsibility, but most people that I work with don't have that responsibility. So that's why I say I don't really have resources, because most of the people that I work with, and that one person is not in the technical, is not an engineer. So I don't really have you know, a network of people to lean on in that regard. But I know my highest calling is as a mother. So, and you know, I make it work. So I don't know if that was a good answer.
I appreciate the honesty.
I love the honesty and just how, yes. Thank you so much for that. I just have one last final question for you. And I think it's something that, you know, I think with this generation, you know, a lot of folks push entrepreneurship and everybody should be their own boss and things like that. And I just want to know from you if any misconceptions that you think that STEM professionals maybe have about being an entrepreneur, or you know, going into business for themselves, or if there were things that ways that you thought it would be that it is not, and you know, things that you expected that haven't been the case.
So I think systems engineering prepared me for being an entrepreneur, in the sense that as a systems engineer, very early on, I was responsible for project teams. So leading large teams of people to take a concept and bring it to life. And it didn't just include the technical aspects of it. It also included the budget. I also had to work contracts as well. So as an engineer, I was exposed to just some fundamental skills that really helped me to become an entrepreneur. I think most people, when they hear entrepreneur, is the risk that really, that really makes them think twice about doing it. But for me, I've just always had a can-do attitude. It's just gonna work out. I mean, we don't have any other options here. So for me, like I said, I think I just have the fundamental skills. I think the fellowship, the AAA, and not just the AAAS fellowship, but all the experiences that I've had have really prepared me for really this next phase of where I'm going. So I'm not sure if I answered the question.
No, it makes total sense. I think that, just listening to you speak, you're an inspiration, to those of us who, we have ideas, we want to pursue them. And we are, just so grateful for your time and for you just sharing your experience with us. We can tell that you are passionate about outreach and about giving back, and we can feel that. And as women who hope to follow in your footsteps, we just want to show our gratitude and say thank you so much for your time.
Certainly, my pleasure. And I'll just leave with one parting word of advice. I think fundamentally as an engineer, we test out solutions prior to implementing them. And the one piece of advice that I would give to anybody that's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, I would say go for it. I say the same thing to people that are thinking about getting your PhD. If you're thinking about it, go for it. But in terms of entrepreneurship, test out your solution first to make sure that you can be profitable. And at least for me, that's what I did. I made sure that I had money coming in before I left what I was doing before. So I'll leave that as parting words. Thank you all so much for inviting me. And I hope to see you all soon.
Yes, hopefully we hang out in person when all of this is over.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Thank you so much. If you liked this video, guys, don't forget to hit the like button and go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And follow us on Instagram at STEMSysStars to keep up with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.